It was supposed to be the iPhone moment for golf. It was pitched as the fusion of high-end technology, stadium atmosphere, and the biggest names in the sport, all wrapped up in a prime-time package designed to hook the next generation. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy stood on stage and promised a revolution. They promised a league that would strip away the quiet boredom of traditional golf and replace it with adrenaline, data, and noise. They convinced billionaires to write checks that rivaled NBA investments. They convinced ESPN to clear their schedule, but before a single ball was hit, the roof literally caved in. In late 2023, the air-supported dome of the SoFi Center in Florida collapsed overnight due to a power failure and a storm. It was a catastrophic engineering failure, but it was also a perfect metaphor for what was about to happen to the league's finances. TGL, Season 1 didn't just struggle, it polarized the golf world. Ratings cratered by over 60% after the debut. The technology faced accusations of being glitchy. The gambling revenue, the secret engine meant to power the whole operation, failed to materialize. Now, as we approach Season 2, the stakes have shifted from growth to survival. We are looking at a venture that is burning through cash at a rate that would make a Silicon Valley startup blush. Today, we are going to dig into the numbers they don't want you to see. We are going to expose the valuation bubble, the betting failures, and the desperate pivots being made to save this billion-dollar experiment from becoming the biggest tax write-off in sports history. To understand the precarious position of TGL, you first have to look at the money that started it all. When the league announced its teams, the price tags were shocking. We aren't talking about a few $1 million for a fun side project. We are talking about valuations for franchises like Boston Common Golf and Atlanta Drive GC hovering between $50 million and $80 million. Who pays that kind of money for a team in a league that doesn't even exist yet? The buyers are the titans of American industry. Arthur Blank, owner of the Falcons; Steve Cohen, owner of the Mets; Fenway Sports Group, owners of Liverpool and the Red Sox. These are men who do not typically throw money away. So what did they see? They saw a scarcity bubble. TGL artificially limited the league to just 6 teams. By creating a closed ecosystem with no relegation and no expansion initially, they replicated the NFL model. In finance, this is called manufacturing exclusivity. The investors aren't paying for the current revenue because there is none. They are paying for the potential to own 1/6 of the future of golf. They are betting that TGL will eventually merge with the PGA Tour or become the dominant form of weeknight sports entertainment. However, this creates a dangerous financial reality. These valuations are based entirely on speculation. If Season 2 fails to arrest the ratings slide, those $50 million franchises become illiquid assets. You cannot sell a share of a league that nobody watches. We are witnessing a classic high-risk venture capital play. If TGL works, these teams will be worth $500 million in a decade. If it fails, that $50 million entry fee is effectively zero. Right now, the market is holding its breath, waiting to see if this is the next IPL or just another failed startup. We need to talk about the cost of that roof collapse. When the dome came down in November 2023, it forced a 1-year delay. In the world of live sports, a 1-year delay is a financial catastrophe. Think about the burn rate. TGL had already hired staff, built the tech stack, signed the players, and booked the advertising slots. When the season was pushed back, the revenue stopped, but the expenses didn't. They had to keep the engineers on payroll to maintain the software. They had to pay the players' retainers to keep them committed. They had to renegotiate with sponsors like SoFi and Best Buy, likely offering them make goods, essentially free future advertising to apologize for the delay. Estimates suggest that the delay cost the league tens of millions of dollars in operational losses before they even sold a single ticket. But the financial cost pales in comparison to the momentum cost. In 2024, the golf world was in the middle of the chaotic merger talks between the PGA Tour and the Saudi PIF. That was the perfect window for TGL to step in as a stable, exciting alternative. By missing that window, they allowed apathy to set in. When they finally launched, the hunger was gone. The casual fans had moved on. The lost year meant that TGL started Season 1 in a hole, desperate to prove it wasn't cursed. That desperation seeped into the product. Every broadcast felt frantic, like they were trying too hard to justify the wait. And as we know, in sales, desperation is the ultimate killer. Let's dissect the ratings, because in the media business, numbers are the only truth. The debut of TGL was objectively a success. Tiger Woods stepped into the simulator, and over 1 million viewers tuned in on ESPN. The executives popped champagne. It beat the NHL regular season. It beat college basketball. But then, the novelty curve hit, and it hit hard. By week 3, the viewership had plummeted. By the semifinals, the audience had shrunk to under 400,000. That is a drop of nearly 65%. In television economics, that is a disaster. It indicates that people came to see what the fuss was about, realized they didn't like it, and never came back. Why did they leave? The data points to a confusion in the format. TGL tried to gamify golf with shot clocks, timeouts, and referees. But for the average viewer, it was just noise. It was too complex for the casual fan and too gimmicky for the hardcore golfer. They found themselves in the uncanny valley of sports viewership. It wasn't quite a video game, but it wasn't quite a sport. This drop has massive implications for ad revenue. Advertisers pay based on CPM, cost per 1,000 views. When you promise 1 million viewers and deliver 400,000, you owe the advertisers money back, or you have to give them free slots in the future. This crushes the profit margins. If Season 2 doesn't stabilize these numbers, the premium advertisers will leave, and TGL will be left relying on bottom-tier sponsors to fill the gaps. Here is the secret that TGL doesn't advertise. This league was built for gambling. The entire structure, indoor, data-driven, shot-by-shot metrics, is the holy grail for micro-betting. The business plan relied heavily on partnering with sportsbooks like FanDuel or ESPN Bet to allow degenerates to wager on every single swing. Will Rory carry this 305 yards? Will JT hit the green? But for micro-betting to work, the trust factor must be absolute. And in Season 1, the trust broke. There were moments where the simulator data felt off. Balls took physics-defying bounces. Spin rates didn't seem to match the contact. For a casual viewer, it's a glitch. For a gambler, it's a reason to close your wallet. The sharps, the professional bettors who drive the market volumes, stayed away from TGL because they didn't trust the machine. They feared that a software bug could cost them thousands of dollars. Without the high-volume betting handle, TGL loses its most lucrative secondary revenue stream. The plan was to monetize the data feed, selling real-time stats to casinos. But if the data is perceived as glitchy, it's worthless. This is the biggest technical hurdle for Season 2. They aren't just fixing bugs, they are trying to rebuild trust with a community that is notoriously cynical. If the gamblers don't believe the ball flight is real, the house wins nothing. The most damaging criticism of Season 1 wasn't financial, it was atmospheric. It felt like a practice session. It felt like an exhibition. When you watch the Masters, you can feel the tension radiating through the screen. When you watch TGL, you saw multi-millionaires laughing after hitting a shank into a virtual water hazard. The lack of stakes was palpable. This is the exhibition curse. If the players don't look like they are dying to win, the audience won't care who loses. The team concept also failed to land. Why should a fan in Ohio care about Jupiter Links GC? The players have no geographic ties to the city names. It felt like a corporate branding exercise rather than a genuine sporting contest. The banter felt scripted, the rivalries felt forced, and the trash talk was polite and corporate safe. This lack of intensity destroyed the retention metric. Viewers would tune in for 10 minutes, realize nobody was actually upset about losing, and change the channel. You cannot manufacture competitive hate. TGL learned the hard way that you can build a $500 million arena, but you can't buy a soul. So why are the players doing this? Why is Rory McIlroy, who has earned hundreds of millions, spending his Tuesday nights hitting balls into a screen? Why is Tiger Woods risking his legacy on a startup? It's not for the prize money. The $9 million purse is nice, but it's a rounding error for these guys. The answer is equity. Tiger and Rory aren't just players, they are founders. They likely hold significant equity stakes in TMRW Sports, the parent company. They are following the Michael Jordan playbook. Don't just take a paycheck, own the team. They are betting that if they can pump the valuation of TGL up to $1 billion, their 10% or 20% stake becomes a generational fortune. This explains why they are sticking with it despite the bad press. They are pot committed, but this also creates a conflict of interest. Are they competing or are they promoting? When Tiger misses a putt and smiles, is he doing it because he doesn't care or because he needs to keep the fun vibe alive for the investors? Fans are smart. They can smell when an athlete is in business mode versus competition mode. And right now, TGL feels like a board meeting with golf clubs. Let's talk about the hardware. The simulator screen is the size of an IMAX theater, 46 feet by 64 feet. The green zone is a massive turntable that physically morphs to create different putting slopes. This is an engineering marvel, but engineering marvels are expensive to maintain. Unlike a grass course, where you just need water and mowers, TGL requires a massive IT infrastructure, server farms, real-time rendering engines, redundant power systems to prevent another roof collapse scenario, and a team of software engineers on standby. This high OPEX, operating expense, creates a difficult break-even point. Every time the system has a hiccup, it costs money. In Season 1, the latency, the slight delay between the club hitting the ball and the ball flying on screen, was a major complaint. Fixing latency isn't easy. It requires faster processors and better tracking cameras, which means more capital investment. The investors are essentially paying for a tech demo. If the tech eventually gets good enough to be sold to other leagues or commercialized for home use, that's the exit strategy. But right now, it's a cost center that is bleeding the budget dry. TGL knows they are in trouble. You can tell by the panic moves they made in the offseason. They didn't just tweak the rules, they overhauled the physical architecture of the game. The biggest complaint about the green zone in Season 1 was that it was too easy. The slopes funneled balls to the hole. The pros were making everything. It was boring. For Season 2, they have introduced toxicity. They redesigned the putting surface to be hostile. They added severe drop-offs, island greens, and penalty areas that punish bad shots severely. They want to see the best players in the world look stupid. They realized that Schadenfreude, the joy of watching others fail, is a powerful engagement tool. They are also tweaking the format to be faster. They are shortening the shot clock and changing the point system to create more buzzer-beater moments. They are desperate for a viral clip. They need a moment where Justin Thomas smashes a club or Rory McIlroy gets into a shouting match. They need passion. This pivot to harder, faster, angrier is their Hail Mary to save the retention numbers. So what is the verdict? Is TGL the future of sports or a $500 million flop? The financials paint a grim picture. The high burn rate, the low retention, and the failure of the betting model suggest a product in distress. They have built a Ferrari engine but put it inside a go-kart. The tech is impressive, but the soul of the sport is missing. However, never bet against the ego of billionaires. The people backing this league have deeper pockets than almost anyone in sports. They can afford to subsidize this loss leader for a few more years if, and only if, they see a path to a monopoly. They are betting that the traditional PGA Tour model is dying and that the digital, short-form future is inevitable. Season 2 is the binary test. If the ratings stabilize and the tech holds up, TGL survives to fight another day. If the numbers drop again and the glitchy reputation sticks, that rumored $77 million expansion fee will vanish into thin air. Tiger Woods built the stadium, Rory McIlroy sold the vision, but now the market gets to decide if it's worth the price of admission. The simulator is booted up, the bets are placed. But this time, there is no safety net.